The Legend of Zelda is one of my all-time favorite series, and as much as I like Skyward Sword HD and all of its updates, it still has a few gimmicks and hiccups I'm not overly fond of. Skyward Sword was originally released on the Nintendo Wii and specifically utilized the system's Wii Motion Plus capabilities. While some people enjoyed slashing their sword in specific directions, I always found it a bit gimmicky and clunky to operate. With the release of the HD version of the game, I decided to give it another try, and for about half the game I used the Joy-Con motion controls. And I still hated the gimmicky combat. Fortunately though, Nintendo added the option to play the game without motion controls, using the right analog stick as your sword movements instead, and holy crap did that make my experience 10 times better. The combat still felt gimmicky, but the clunkiness all but disappeared. It's definitely a new feature that I think makes the game playable and overall a better experience. Motion controls can be fun, and back in Twilight Princess it was kept fairly simple, but this time around it just felt like too much. Now, all your favorite Zelda tropes are there. Wacky characters, unique equipment, puzzle dungeons, and creative boss fights. The dungeons themselves felt like a mixed bag though, where some of the beginning dungeons felt way too linear. Some of the later dungeons were truly inventive and some of the best I've seen in the series. The overall design of the world felt frustrating at times. The sky above felt like it took just a little bit too long to get where you wanted to go, and frankly it felt a lot smaller and emptier than Wind Waker's ocean. And once you got down to the world below, each area before the dungeon felt like its own separate pre-dungeon. They were often very linear and involved solving some kind of big puzzle to reach the dungeon. Unlike previous Zelda games, with how linear each area was, I felt less inclined to explore, the exception being the town of Skyloft. The other design flaw I came across was not being able to fast travel between bird statues within the same biome. This honestly just felt like an oversight. Sometimes it was literally faster to return to the sky, turn back around, re-enter the biome, and choose a different starting location. This felt clunky as hell, and was pretty annoying. While Skyward Sword utilized the same areas differently over the course of the game, a lot of the sections did feel a bit repetitive. You do have to defeat the same imprisoned mini-boss a number of times, and there's a hefty number of collectible challenges that after the 4th time felt more like a chore than an immersive gameplay experience. However, despite my negative opinions on many of the designs, the nostalgic narrative and quest to save the world always powered me through its rougher sections. If you played any of the Zelda games, you'll already know that the world and setting is teeming with life and diversity, and the array of characters you meet along the way just makes the whole experience feel fun. It's always a pleasure to jump back into the magical world of Hyrule and become the hero of legend. I may not like a lot of the core motion control designs, but the game itself is still an engaging and emotional experience that all Zelda fans can appreciate. The beautifully painted world of Skyward Sword grew on me over time, and it really tied all the areas together nicely. Every part of the world felt like it belonged, even some of the more crazy locations. Its cel-shaded style really highlights the iconic and more exaggerated areas of the game. The sound cues in the game are phenomenal and responsive. Cracking the whip, blocking with your shield, and swinging your sword all have their own distinct sounds that deliver a well-polished feel, and the music is of course stellar. The Ballad of the Goddess and countless more familiar soundtracks are all top-notch orchestrations. It's really what delivers that nostalgic punch in many of its more impactful cutscenes. Overall, despite my issues with the swordplay and the design of certain areas, Skyward Sword HD is much better and more playable than the original, almost solely due to being able to use a normal controller this time around. It turned frustrating challenges into more enjoyable combats, and it helps keep the pace from stalling anywhere along the way. Its story, music, and art direction are all masterfully done, and the finale felt the right amount of challenging and fun. If you're a Zelda fan and passed on it the first time because of the motion controls, perhaps you'll have a better time with it on the Switch like I did. And while it's not my favorite game in the series, it's still a pretty good game with a satisfying conclusion. I hope you all enjoyed the review. Don't forget to slam that like button and subscribe if you're not already a member. And until next time, this is Game Ghost. Happy gaming.